So direct variation and inverse variation we learned in Algebra 1. Direct variation is a linear relationship between two variables, or in other words, two variables that both increase or decrease together and at the same rate. That rate is known as the slope, or also the constant of variation, and it's represented with the letter K. So an example of this might be the number of hours you work, um, and the amount of money that you earn. So we could say that the amount of money that you earn varies directly with the number of hours that you work. So if you make $10 an hour and you work for 3 hours, then you would make $30 an hour, or your constant rate of $10 times the number of hours you work affects or makes your total amount of money earned vary. So that's called direct variation. So as one increases, the other increases, or as one decreases, the other decreases. Inverse variation is sort of the opposite of that. As one variable increases, the other variable decreases, or vice versa. An example of this might be like the number of hours it takes to paint a house and the number of people that you have to help paint. So let's say it takes you 200 man hours to paint a house, but you have 10 people there. Well, then it would take each person only um, 20 hours, as opposed to if it were only one person, it would take the full 200 hours. So as the number of people increases, then the number of hours that you have to paint decreases. So that would be an example of inverse variation, and this is the formula for it. Joint variation is just a type of direct variation where something varies with more than one variable. So for example, if you think about the area formula for a rectangle, we calculate it as area equals the base times the height. So the area will change if the base changes or if the height changes. So that would be an example of joint variation, or direct variation, but with more than one variable, more than two variables, I should say. And then combined variation is a combination of direct or joint variation and inverse variation. So if we have something that varies directly and inversely with something else, that would be an example of combined variation. So I believe an example that's given on this website that I also gave you guys a link to was for the volume of wood contained in a tree, and that varies directly with the height of the tree. So obviously the taller the tree, then the more wood there is, but it also varies inversely with the circumference of the tree trunk, um, squared, I should say. So if the tree trunk is, for example, like 0.8 meters across, something like that, then if you square it, it's actually going to get even smaller. If you think about that kind of mathematically on your calculator, if you square a number less than 1, like 0.5 squared, you actually get a number even smaller than what you started with. So that gets smaller as the amount of, or the volume of wood gets larger. So it would vary inversely in that respect, but directly or jointly with the height of the tree. So that would be an example of combined variation. So your task is to now go on the internet and see if you can find your own real world examples of each of the 4 types of variation that we're going to be talking about in class. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday or Thursday.